forget them. So, the EEC thing. I was opposed to our membership of the European Community in 1975, not because I didn't like Germans or French or Italians. Indeed, I felt that we fought 2 wars against them and it was time we worked more closely with them. So I'm in favour of the closest cooperation in Europe. But I was not in favour of being governed by people we don't elect and can't remove and therefore don't have to listen to us. And the European community is run by appointed people, not by elected people. And the financial power behind the European community is very powerful and dictates what the political leaders want. And I thought that was bad for Britain then, and I think it's bad for Britain today. And I shall certainly vote no when we come to the next referendum, if there is one. But it's going to be a very tricky situation because I don't think that Cameron really wants a referendum because he thinks they might vote no. I think the Labour Party at the top level similarly would like to see us stay in. The Liberals we know want us to. So we will be a movement without political leadership at the top. At least not many people putting our point of view. And we shall have to handle it very carefully because we don't want a nationalist outbreak where you hate immigrants and foreigners and so on. We are making a simple democratic point that democracy means you govern yourself, and if you don't like what a government does, you vote against it and get a new government, and that is not true in the European economic community. I'm not saying there aren't very good things going on in Europe, because of course there are, and there are good people there, and you can work with them and cooperate with them. But it's whether we give ourselves uncritically to the idea that the European policy should be invented by appointed people and financial people rather than by elected people. Because I know as a Member of Parliament over 50 years that I was always sensitive to public opinion because I knew, put it simply, they could get rid of me if they didn't like me. And governments have to be very sensitive to public opinion. Public opinion is a form of democratic pressure, so just keep that in mind, and then if you find good people doing sensible things, work with them and cooperate. I'm all for that.
The questioner asked, how do you feel about some of the new left groups that are forming like Left Unity?
The
new left groups?
Well, I think it's a very important question because, I mean, if you're a socialist, you know the Labour Party is not a socialist party. It's had socialist links and it's done socialist things. And these people are very critical of some of the things that the Labour government has done. And they say what we need is a new socialist party. And they set one up. And then the object of that party is to discredit the Labour Party and defeat the Labour Party. And of course it doesn't set up a new party. All it does is to divide the left and weaken it. So I'm in favour of people saying what they think, but doing it within the common framework we have established, which is the Labour Party. Well, I work with a lot of people in the Labour Party and not in the Labour Party. And I do it on the basis that I cooperate with people I agree with. And if there are people in the Labour Party who are opposed to the Iraq War, I support them. If there are people outside the Labour Party who are opposed to the Iraq War, I support them. And I do know of quite a number of people who were originally members of the SWP who have come round to the view that the Labour Party is the instrument we should use. But it's not, I don't want to tell people what they should do. Everyone has to make up their own mind. But on the whole, I think you're more effective if you do work with the mainstream than if your real purpose is to destroy the mainstream and replace it with some imaginary party that has not yet been invented. So that's the way I look at it. Well, I mean, our job is to persuade, isn't it? And nobody amongst us has got the power to command anything to happen, but we do have the powers of persuasion. And if you think the Labour Party's got something wrong, you should campaign to get the Labour Party policy changed. If you succeed, then you campaign to get the public opinion to follow the Labour Party. But if you fail, then you have to decide what to do. And I mean, the conclusion I came to is that the Labour Party is not a socialist party, but it has socialists in it. And I'm very proud to be a socialist in the Labour Party. And I recognise that on many occasions the government of which I may be a member will do things I disagree with. And once that is a decision has been taken, then you are in a difficulty that you either go along with the majority decision in the government, or you leave the party and fight it from the outside. Now, this brings me to a point I regard as very important, and that is how necessary it is for people to understand what's happening. Information is the mainspring of democracy. And one of the things that I realised as a diarist was how many decisions in the cabinet were taken in secret, and people in the party had no idea what the discussion was, who took what view, and therefore they felt ill-equipped to bring about a change if they wanted to see a change. And I am in favour of proper minutes of the cabinet being published, in which you know what the subject was, who took what view, what the outcome was, and then you're in a better position to do something about it if you feel that necessary. And this is something that will be greatly resisted by political people and civil servants who want to keep these decisions private to themselves. But it is absolutely essential that we open up government to the public so that they do have an opportunity of exercising greater influence than is presently possible.
Thank you. I joined the Labour Party in 1979 because of the campaigns that Tony Benn and the others were beginning to raise within the Labour Party about greater democracy. I left in 2000 because I thought it had become a social democratic or even a Christian democratic party. But however, after this meeting, I think I'll rejoin the Labour Party.
And join the LLC!
The Labour Party has really lost a vision of kind of taking its voters, the electorate, on a journey with it. And I personally feel that that's very hard to subscribe to Labour values these days, when we have public school boys, Neatonites at the top leading the party, who are so detached from what it's like on the general lives, the everyday lives of working class people. Tony, I'd like to ask you how you feel that Labour can actually win the hearts and to actually engage the electorate when we have such critical voter apathy these days, when they're being led by such a kind of elite group these days.
Well, I think the point of people feel that they're not represented by working class people in Parliament, and therefore those interests are neglected, is one you have to take very seriously, because if you are a government, you do become the government of the country, even if you don't really control everything, and therefore you have your own interests that you want done, and you have your own systems to push it through. And a lot of other people feel shut out as a result of that. And our job is to have such an active, buoyant membership that that cannot actually happen. And I know in my own constituency some of the people who got disregarded were the most imaginative of all. They had ideas as to what might be done, and their own experience, their own commitment. And listening to them, I learned a great deal more than I did from listening to material issued by party headquarters. So I think if that's the point you're making, I agree with you 100%. I don't agree there is no choice. I think we do have a choice. It may be a choice between two situations, neither of which we really like. But in a democracy, where you have a choice, you have to make it. And although I understand your frustration, I think your conclusion is too pessimistic. And I would always encourage people to take that view. go back to their basic faith and ask themselves, in the light of what they really believe, how would they reach this decision themselves? And usually, if you do that, you do get a very sensible reply. Well, I think the problem for the many people at the moment is they don't think that anything can be done, and they're very cynical about candidates and saying what they say to get elected. And cynicism is destructive of progressive politics. You have to believe that something can be done and be prepared to put your elbow to the wheel and give it a push. And I think that what people do want is some reassurance that Labour will do what it says it will do, and will be what it stands for will be clearly understood and will be followed when we win. So it's the best answer I can give you, but it's the thing that would influence me most when I looked at what was being said. I would say to myself, other people are saying this really serious, would they do it? Can I help them? Should I help them? How can I help them? But if I can help them, then I must help them.
That I hope that Labour, when we get in next, repeal the bedroom tax that so many people are suffering on now, those that are on benefits.
Well, I would be very surprised if they didn't, because it's such a wicked tax, and it's been so much criticised by senior members of the party that a Labour government meeting, I think one of the first things that individual members of the cabinet will be asking is, when do we repeal the bedroom tax? But still, if you want it, you have to go on campaigning for it. Why do Labour governments ditch the working class? The answer is that in democracy, I mean, if we really intend to run the country, we must run the organisations of which we're members, our local branches, our local constituencies, whatever, and through the annual conference and the parliamentary party, and bring pressure to bear on a Labour government to see that it does respond to the demands of its members. And it's not a very exciting thing to be criticised, but if you're not criticised and kept on track, it can very easily go wrong. And I think there have been examples in the past where Labour governments have made a big mistake. And this needs to be prevented from happening in the future. Thank you also for coming. It's been a very good meeting. The Labour conference is held here this September. It's always a very good place to hold a Labour conference, and I hope people who come today will go to that conference, make the same points in the same spirit, and that will have some impact on influencing the direction of the Labour Party. Never underestimate the power we have. The question is, do we decide to use it or not? So thank you for coming.